So the Boston Celtics have lost 2 in a row. Not that big of a deal. Let's not go too crazy. But Joe Mazzulla still has things he needs to learn. He needs to separate himself from the game. I'll explain what that means. Plus, Jayson Tatum. Why was he a step behind? What was he doing in that last play? I'm actually going to show it to you right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team. Step back, we gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I'm here for you every day with a free, fresh podcast dropped directly to your device if you're a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, then you got to find it somewhere on the tweets or something. So just subscribe. It's so much easier to just get it delivered directly to your device on whichever app that you use, or you can watch the show on YouTube, ring the bell, get notified when I drop a video there. You can hop into the comment section, join a growing community of Celtics fans on that. Thank you for making the show your first listen every single day. I'm John Karalis, former professional basketball player. Now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal, and dissecting the aftermath of a 2-game back-to-back loss, mostly on the Miami Heat, kind of revisiting that here. We'll talk about the final play again. We'll talk about Peyton Pritchard, options that the Celtics could have had there against Miami, where I think they clearly ran out of gas at the end. I still, after sleeping on it, I still feel like that is the case. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Let's break things down here with our good friend, Tom_NBA. I love it. People on the audio be like, why did you say whoops? And it's because the video side, I'm like messing it up, and Tom's in and out and flashing and whatever. So
hi,
Tom.
Here now. Hey, how are you doing, man?
I'm great. I'm here. I'm still in Miami. I'm coming home, but I was gonna flex again and podcast outside, but it's the wind's blowing about 50 miles an hour out there. So
oh man, that wind out there, I can't. It's so windy.
Yeah, as also at the here
as a
in
fellow Miami person right now. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Packed up your family, packed up your house.
I did. Yeah. I live here.
Dedication to podcast. It's that dedication to podcasting that makes the Locked On Celtics the number one Celtics podcast in the world.
Facts. Yes.
All right, Tom. Everybody's buzzing about this the final play, and there are just, I don't know if it's social media. I don't know if it's just this is how people react nowadays. But the consternation after these losses is really, really high. And all of a sudden, I don't know if it's different people, and I don't look at every username of everybody who's complaining. The people who aren't really upset, they just say, hey, it's a loss, tough one. You're missing 5 guys, literally 14-man roster, 5 guys, including Danilo Gallinari, aren't there. So you have 9 guys left. They all played. They didn't get the two-way guys.
No.
Any minutes. So let's just start there, because I went on a thing about the minutes after the game, and obviously the minutes are a bit of a problem. And I thought that when you played Jayson Tatum 40 minutes after playing, 38 against Orlando on the back-to-back, and 48 in the last game that he played. He did have a day off, but still, it's just a lot of minutes to pile up. And 42 minutes for Peyton Pritchard. Was there any sort of thing you think that they could have done differently to maybe get some fresh legs out there at the end?
I mean, not without conceding, right? Like, not without kind of just saying this is kind of a throwaway game, which, I mean, they held a bunch of guys out. And Al Horford, kind of on that back spasms, which is actually kind of like that back-to-back spasms thing,
right,
where it's like
low back-to-back stiffness.
Yeah, exactly. Like you kind of know what the deal is there. You kind of know, and like, but like apart from like playing Sam Hauser, 40 minutes, apart from, just like trimming into these minutes, like because Jayson Tatum was excellent for most of the game till the fourth quarter, right? Like the fourth quarter, he comes in. I thought he looked a little tired. I thought, just kind of the Heat did a good job of taking him out of the game. But, like without, like before that, the Celtics really needed him. The Celtics were, thriving when he was in the game. So, short of just kind of turning this into like a genuine schedule loss, I don't really know what else they could have done. I think like this was always going to be a tough stretch, right? Like that 3 game and 4 night situation, and especially when bodies started going down, guys started getting hurt, and started getting just out for a variety of reasons. You're missing 3 of your starters and your sixth man. It's going to be a tough game no matter what
No
when
matter what.
that's the
No
case.
matter what.
Like so, and that's one of the reasons why down the stretch, like how can you be very concerned like about this? Like sure, Joe Mazzulla, like yeah, maybe he could have called a timeout. He tried to take responsibility for Tatum, like for that final play. Tatum took responsibility for that final play. Like everybody wants to, you're like, oh, that was my fault. We should have been better. I don't know. Sure, you could have been, but you were also missing 3 starters on your sixth man. Like I like this one's okay. This any consternation that's out there, it's like, guys, this one's fine. They'll be okay.
Yeah, and they will be. I agree. They will be okay. However, I will throw out there that when I know Joe Mazzulla is let them play through some things guy with the timeouts, but also Joe needs to adjust. We talk about players need to adjust to certain things. Joe definitely needs to adjust. You've got all these timeouts and 9 guys to play. Maybe there's an opportunity when you go into the fourth quarter. I think he had 4 timeouts going into the fourth quarter. Use them to
Yes.
get these guys a break. Use them when there's no excuse. I'm pretty sure he lost one. If I don't, I apologize. But I'm pretty sure he lost one in the use or lose it moment, right? He didn't use them all in the so if you have an opportunity, and it's not like there was great flow to this game. It's not like everything was going great the entire fourth quarter. The entire fourth quarter from the 8-minute mark on, there was things started to kind of derail a little bit. But I saw it at the end of the third quarter when Victor Oladipo hit a couple of 3-pointers and Hightower hit a 3-pointer, and all of a sudden the team that had been shooting in the 20% range was starting to hit their 3-pointers. And I would say Joe needs to make an adjustment, not to call timeout to change the flow of the game, but you got 4 timeouts in the fourth quarter on a back-to-back 3rd game in 4 nights and no real options on your bench. Call them more frequently. You're going to get 2 for the last 3 minutes. Use the other ones in times where you've got TV timeouts. Those are coming. Use one somewhere else where you can get the guys just take a second, take a breath. Use it at that 3.5 minute mark when you get the possession. Say, you know what? I'm going to get these guys a minute on the bench, rest their legs because I'm rolling with you guys down the stretch. Is that going to be the difference? I don't know, but maybe that little bit of rest is what gets Peyton Pritchard a little bit of leg to get one of those shots that hit the front of the rim to actually go in. And if one of those shots goes in, that changes the entire flow of the game. So I'm not making this into a Joe timeout thing and a strategy, but I am saying adjust because you've got ways to get these guys rest. Use every possible tool you have to get these guys an extra minute here or there to maybe help them finish out the game.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. My point was about the strategy of like that last minute where everybody was so upset about the Tatum play. Like, call a timeout, don't call a timeout on that one. If you're going to call a timeout on that one, I would posit that more so than calling the play, because your play is probably going to be for Tatum anyway, the point would be what you were saying, right? Is get them that rest, give them okay, like you've got, like, it's the final minute, but and that could happen anytime in the last minute. But to your point though, I mean, just purely for getting legs, that I think is where there definitely needed to be an adjustment. That's where I think we needed to see, just kind of a little different strategy. So Yeah, I agree with you there, but I do think that on the final play, call a timeout, don't call a timeout. Strategy wise, I think
Yeah,
it is what
I'm
it is.
actually I'm okay. I'm actually okay with how the final play played out. But let's take a second and talk about that. We'll talk about Jayson Tatum. We'll talk about Tatum operating with a little bit of fatigue, because that's I think part of an interesting conversation that's coming up next. First, today's show brought to you by FanDuel. We're really excited to have our new sports betting partner for Locked On, because it's the number one sports book in America. FanDuel, we're the number one podcast network. Got to have the number one sports betting partner. So if you're new to FanDuel, that's fine. That's even better, actually, because they've got a lot of great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. You're a new customer. Join today. Get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All you have to do is sign up at FanDuel.com/locked on. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, from the money line to the point spreads, the player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. The Celtics on FanDuel are plus 390 to win the championship. Number one by far here. The Bucks are plus 550. The Nets are plus 800. So the Celtics, if you're looking to bet on the Celtics, they're still the favorites there at FanDuel. So it's all of this is on an app that's safe, it's secure, it's super easy to use. So don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets. And it doesn't matter, win or lose. It's all there at FanDuel.com/locked on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We just ask you to please gamble responsibly. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. You can make Locked On Game to Game your second listen. It's right there on the Locked On NBA feed. So if you're listening to Locked On NBA, you see Locked On Game to Game in your feed and you wonder what's that? It's each side of the story. Each host gives their take on what happened in their game. So check it out. You get a real good sense of what happened last night in the NBA. It's all right there on Locked On Game to Game. You can also find the show on YouTube. Let's bring Tom Westerholm back in to discuss the last. I keep saying the last play, but it's not the last play, because the Celtics actually inbounded the ball and got a good look for Peyton Pritchard. He was just a little too far away and a little too tired. But man, that thing looked like it was online. And when you could see in his face when he dropped down, he knew it. He had it. It was right there online, and he left it short by about a foot. But
yeah,
it was well short.
It was kind of funny watching him be that disappointed, because I'm like, I mean, you thought that was going in, dude? That was way short.
But I'm sure in his moment, he was so tired. He played 42 minutes. He's so tired. He was just probably giving it everything he had. He's giving that big strong wrist flick, and he's like, oh yeah, it's right there. In that slow motion moment, he must be like, oh yeah, I get to be the hero. Here it comes, winning the game against nuts.
Well, and then I hope in the immediate aftermath of missing it, he realized, okay, on the plus side, I've played 72 minutes in the last 2 days.
Incredible.
Now I don't have to go to overtime. Now I can go home. Now I can go get in an ice bath and rest up a little bit, because I mean that dude, he played his season high 30 minutes and then played his second highest minutes of all time. He's gonna be cramping up a little bit today.
Outrageous, but necessary. I mean, they could have played JD Davison, I suppose. But
that's my pitch, man. Let's get this. Davison's doing some cool stuff. Let's get this guy in there.
He is, but he's doing it in the G League, and yes. And I don't know, man. Is Joe Joe wants to win these games? Obviously, everybody wants to win these games. There's no level of punt in Joe's coaching ability. He is go for it on fourth down every play. He does not say, hey, we keep calling him a Brad Stevens clone, but he is very much not a Brad Stevens clone with his minutes distribution.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, Brad Stevens would have found minutes for JD Davison in that game. Win or lose, he would understand. And I do wonder if Brad and Joe are going to have some sort of conversation when it comes out of this, because as I said, the the minutes pile up, and they could be trying to say, hey, we're just going to win as much as we can, and then we can rest later. But when guys are out and you've built the lead now in the East,
right?
You have the pad. Just don't kill guys in January. And I'm not saying Peyton Pritchard, needs to have his minutes
right
kind of limited, but it's impossible. It's impossible, no matter what kind of shape you're in, to go from averaging 5, 7, 10 minutes a game, getting DNPs, to then on a back-to-back go 30 and 42. There's no way anybody can have legs like that. You're not bionic. I don't care how young you are. I don't care what kind of shape you're in. NBA basketball is hard. It's very, very difficult. Basketball in general is hard. To do it for that long in back-to-back games, we saw he did not finish the game well because he just didn't have it. And I really do believe, like, if it was Brad out there, not that I'm advocating for Brad Stevens, I'm not. Don't no one take this as Karalis is advocating for that coaching change. No. I want Brad to mentor Joe Mazzulla and say, hey, buddy, you can't be playing these guys this many minutes. You got to be willing to put J.D. Davison in the game for 5-minute stretches here or there. Give him 10 minutes, and then Pritchard can get maybe 37 minutes or 34 minutes or something, just so they could be fresh. Those are the guys that got the shots at the end of the game. They're the ones who needed to be fresh. I just feel like Joe gets too caught up in the do everything it takes to win the game. And I don't know, maybe that's just a part of his mentality. Like, he was always do everything it takes to win a game guy. And now it's spread to him as a coach, which is great in some ways, but also, hey, it's a long season. You can't burn these guys out.
Well, and especially right now, you look ahead, right? And it's like between now and say March 6th, right? So like the next month and a little bit, you see Lakers, Nets, Suns, Sixers, Grizzlies, Bucks, Pacers, Sixers again, Cavaliers, Knicks again. It's like this stretch is tough.
It's gonna be tough. Yeah.
And but the thing that you can look at with that stretch is, you talk about building this lead and padding out this lead a little bit. Let's say you go, I don't know how many games I just said. Let's say you go 8-6 over the next however many. That's that will you'll maintain your lead. Or maybe not all of it. Teams might catch up a little bit, but if you just, if you stay above 500, whether it's 8-6, 9-6, with 10, whatever, you'll be okay. So if you drop a few games here and there because you rested guys, that's okay. That's not a big deal. So, I mean, you could look at it hey, maybe Tatum's got a day off coming up here, right? After those two games, maybe the Celtics are going to, I don't know, let all the air out of his tires before the game to keep him off the floor. And, maybe he gets a night off. That would be great. And you can sacrifice some of these losses. I think it is probably hard for Mazzulla, somebody who probably does still kind of feel like he's coaching for his job a little bit, right? He's still got the interim tag, all that stuff. He's having a great season, but he still takes criticism on social media. He's still, all these things that are just kind of normal for guys who don't have the interim tag. It's probably hard for him kind of just having that hanging over his head a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, I think I agree with you completely. I think this is a really tough stretch for the Celtics, and they need to be careful not to kind of burn these guys out. And I think, if there is a conversation between Brad and Mazzulla, that would probably be helpful for Mazzulla just to kind of know what the expectations are at this stage too.
Yeah. Look, coaches can watch film too and watch film about themselves. The guys like Joe Mazzulla. They like him. He's a very smart guy. As I said on last night's podcast, he's half Italian, Rhode Islander, and I grew up around those guys. They're all ball busters. So I get everything about his personality. I know where he's coming from. That's why I never take any of his things personally whenever he gives it to me in a press conference. I'm fine with all of it. My criticism, I guess the best way was what I just said for him. I think he has always been win at all costs guy on the floor. Like he is probably the guy that the you know how people say he'll knot your ankles to win a basketball game. You're like, he's the guy that would dive through the scorer's table to get a loose ball to save a possession. And that's all great, but that's not how you coach. And I think sometimes he gets a little too caught up. We saw it in the Toronto game where Al Horford, he said, Al Horford saved my ass for not calling the timeout when Pritchard had the turnover and Grant was crumpled over. A little too caught up in the game of saying like, come on, let's go do this. Let's do something. He doesn't want to, almost sometimes I feel like he doesn't want to get too involved in there, but you have opportunities. The coach is part of the team. And so if it's a timeout, if it's a play, if it's whatever, a substitution pattern, you can't get so caught up that you're ruining guys or anything like that. You gotta be able to separate yourself from the game a little bit. And I think down the stretch, I think Joe Mazzulla might have a little tougher time separating himself from the game so we can figure out what that right play is in the last couple of minutes. I teased Jayson Tatum down the stretch and I completely derailed. So let's get to Jayson Tatum in just a second. All of what I just said plays into the Jayson Tatum thing there at the end, because I think the type of turnover that Jayson Tatum made there was a tired Tatum turnover.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw something out there, a thought that I had that I don't know. I'm gonna just toss it out to you, Tom, and you react. Tatum is obviously MVP candidate level player. I don't think there's that much dispute. Some people will dispute it, but because the internet and whatnot. But because he's not like Luka or Jokic or even Giannis in the terms of like a force of nature, but I think Giannis even struggles with this sometimes. Because he's the guy that worked to get to this level, I think when he gets tired, he loses some of that. And the decision making when he gets tired, he doesn't have at this point that little something extra that like a Luka has to kind of navigate his way through. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, they're throwing two guys at me. I think Luka in that situation still has that. I can still manipulate the defense certain ways. I still have that passing ability. I still have that special play ability. Where when Tatum gets tired, I think he loses the special play ability and that manipulate ability right now. I think when he gets tired, we saw it at the end of the finals, we saw it in this game. When he gets tired, he makes those types of decisions that, like, when I get tired and I get home and I'm eating, like, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'll have half a sleeve of Chips Ahoy because I'm tired, I'm hungry, and it's 3 a.m. I just got back from work. Let's go. These sound good. And it's a horrible decision. And you wake up in the morning going, why did I do that? Because you're tired and you have nothing inside that says, hold up. I think Tatum, when he gets tired, loses the ability to make some of those plays if he's that exhausted.
Do you think that's because it's like some of those plays are a little bit more natural for Luka, whereas they were kind of learned for Tatum? Is that kind of theory?
I think Luka, when you throw a double team at Luka, I think Luka Doncic at 14 years old knows what to do with a double team. And like a real double team, not from other 14-year-olds. Like you put Luka in, where do you play? Real Madrid, and he knows how to handle those things. Where Tatum, I think, coming into the league, he never had that ability. We had to see that ball movement pulled out of him. You know what I mean? And so reading the play, reading the floor is tougher for Tatum than it is for somebody who just naturally sees it. And I don't think Tatum naturally sees the floor as a playmaker. He naturally sees the floor as a scorer,
right, and
then as a playmaker.
Right.
But in that situation, Joe Mazzulla said, I knew they were going to throw two at the ball, and I knew we are going to have to get off of that. And so I wanted it in Tatum's hands to draw two, and then we can get the open shot. But Tatum didn't see. I keep harping on this. Tatum, after the game, said they doubled Robert Williams' roll to the basket. They did not double Rob's roll to the basket. Rob rolled, and it was wide open at the free throw line, and he kept on going. Maybe Rob should have stayed there, but they did not double Rob. So he didn't read the floor the right way. And I think Tatum doesn't read the floor the way he should, the way a playmaker does, a natural playmaker does when he gets tired. He's just, I think he gets, and I don't want to say flustered because I don't think it's flustered. I just don't think he sees it and processes it in the same time.
Yeah, I think that's a good theory. And I like it partly because if you look at how long it took Tatum to get into that, right? Like it almost looked like he was gathering himself at a time when the Celtics didn't really have a lot of time for him to gather like that. Like he didn't, like they, and again, this kind of goes back to the timeout to get him some rest discussion. Like, you know, he gets up the floor. I don't remember exactly how many seconds there were, but it was, you know, it was probably 10 when he started dribbling like at the top of the floor and started kind of going into the play that develops the way it did. So, you know, he took a lot of time off the clock, and by the time they're actually, he throws, you know, he gets picked off by Hero, there's, you know, 3 seconds left. So, I mean, like that all kind of comes down to like reading, you know, like you said, reading the play, being able to see that, you know, that Grant is covered in the corner, that Rob isn't covered rolling, that he's got the double team coming, knowing that the double team was going to come, just kind of all of this, like knowing time, score, situation stuff that does kind of come naturally to a playmaker, but like you said, might not come naturally to a pure scorer who has turned himself into a playmaker. I mean, yeah, like you said, when you get tired, your brain isn't, you know, your brain gets tired too. Like it's a full body thing. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. That's just, and I think it's something that he's going to continue to grow into, right? Like we've seen a lot of stuff, you know, from Tatum just become very natural over time. But yeah, I think it's very plausible that just tired legs also can mean kind of a tired mind, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Look, I pulled this up. I'm actually going to do the YouTube special here where you can see what I'm talking about here. So if you're listening, I'm actually sharing the play. I don't get to do this very often. I can't share highlights, but I think when I'm stopping and going, I can kind of share some of what I'm saying. So when you advance the ball here, so this is what I'm talking about. Jayson Tatum, for people who are listening, has the ball up there on the right side. He's got the double team. Very obviously, Rob is not being doubled, right? Do we all see that? Do you see that?
Yes, but I will say, I can kind of see what he's saying because Hero is ducking in and Adebayo's at the rim. So it's like he's not being doubled. He's not even really being guarded by either of them. But like,
right,
you can kind of see that like they could both drop into position to guard it.
But that's a play where, see, now if I play this through a little bit, I think one of the things that I look at is Tatum is going side to side. He's not. If you look at the true manipulators of a double team, they go backwards a little bit. I think Tatum here wants to draw the double team backwards. He's going side to side. He's not going back at all. He's trying to figure out, okay, can I break this? Can I get in between these guys? Can I split this double team? If the play is I'm trying to draw the double team, then he should be taking steps back. So he would be moving closer, like diagonally backwards. So he's more kind of in line with almost the bottom of that Miami Heat logo. So then Rob, when he comes up, is truly playing 4-on-3 basketball. Yeah. Rob should stay at the free throw line or at the top of the key.
At the top of the key,
Yeah, take a dribble. So Tatum should be, if you're watching on YouTube, you see it, but if you're listening, Tatum's kind of like 3 feet from the 3-point line. He should be 2-3 feet back further, because if you give the ball to Rob, those defenders have a chance to go back and collapse on him. But if you step back and then you give the ball to Rob, then he's operating in a spot where that is going to draw somebody, even though it's Rob and he's not going to, people aren't like thinking, oh, he's going to shoot that. There's still 4 seconds left on the clock. Yeah. That's a play where he can take one dribble and you've got Pritchard on one side, you've got Grant on the other, and you've got Derek White here. Just read what Hero does. Does he just suck in? You kick it out to Derek White. That's a wide open 3 from Derek White. I'll take that shot. But Tatum, because he's not a natural playmaker, his instinct is to go side to side, break down that double team. And now when the other guy steps up, he's kind of stuck. He has to go up into the air and try to find a play. He's not reading the floor at all. He's not reading the defenders at all. Rob doesn't do him any favors in that play for sure.
No, he doesn't.
But that to me is what I'm talking about, where Tatum in his mind isn't thinking what Luka would think. And when he gets fatigued and he can't break down a defense, that type of scenario is kind of the stuff that we saw in the finals when he makes his worst decisions. It's kind of like, oh God, okay, that didn't work. Oh my God, I'm running out of time. There's something, and then that's a turnover. Versus calmly like, okay, double team. Oh no, I'm being double teamed. Boom, sucker. That's the. I keep bringing up Luka. Luka has been my comparison for Tatum because they're in the same kind of like length of service in the NBA. But anyway, that to me is the difference there, and that's why you got to get this guy some rest, because when he's not fatigued, he can kind of have that more level head. He's not worried about like, okay, come on, JT, let me find it. He's worried about like, let's make this play work. But, and yeah, could Joe Mazzulla have called a better play? Could Rob have done better there? Right. Yes. So it's not all on Jayson, but also like get this guy to a place where his legs are fresh so he can make better decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, you say it's not all on him, and a big part of that is like this is why we always say like I think a lot of us in the media are harder on Tatum because the possibilities are so endlessly high with him, right? Where you're using Luka Doncic as the guy that we are comparing Jayson Tatum to, because he's so good that the Celtics have been putting the ball in his hands and making him sort of the de facto one a lot of the time. And like that's a lot of responsibility on a guy. And like, yeah, everybody's kind of hard on Tatum when this stuff happens because the expectations are you are an MVP, and like he's been that all year. So it's like, like it's not unreasonable this season to be like, hey, we think you should be at that level. So that's the other thing too, is like these things that we're like, man, I think Tatum should have backed it out a little bit, and I think he should have been reading this play a little bit better. The reason we think that is because we think so highly of him. Like it's a it's a very It's with great power comes great responsibility type thing.
But also, no Brogdon, no Smart, no Jaylen. So they first of all, they could double team him.
Yes,
they have that option. Yep. And to give Jayson the credit now, why am I picking on Jayson? No. Because he had to make a play and he didn't make the play, and he knows he didn't make the play. And it's very easy for me, almost 50-year-old dude on my laptop, a day later going like, oh no, let me, oh God, I figured it out. Jayson has 20 seconds to figure it out with giant NBA players going. So yeah, I understand this. Like in the moment, you have to do a lot. These guys are incredibly elite. When we say elite basketball players, it's not that they're just bigger, faster, stronger. They process things that it takes like me, like 2 days later, I go, aha, epiphany. Like, yeah, dude, I saw that. Like I read that in 2 steps. Like, so yeah, I understand all of that. But
no, totally.
He should have made the play. But also, this is why you get Brogdon as an extra ball handler. This is why Mark's your point guard. And you could have had 3 ball handlers out there, so it didn't have to be Tatum. And even if it was Tatum, his decision, first of all, the other ball handler would have known where to be.
Yeah.
And the other thing is Tatum's decision would have been a lot quicker because he would have had better options. Instead of saying, I have to be the guy that gets the ball to the guy who might take the shot, I'm the decoy. Side note, he's been the decoy in every closing situation this season. He's been every time they've had a play, it's been to Jaylen Brown. He had that game winner. He's missed a couple, and this one was also a decoy. Just side note. But he would have very gladly been like, "Oh, here's Smarty. Here's Malcolm. Boom, boom." But those guys will find the right guy. But he had to be the guy who found the right guy. So in a real full health scenario, that's not how this would have gone either.
Right. I mean, because the other thing is, would Rob have been out there, or would that have been Horford, where the defense would have
That's true. Horford would have known where to be.
Yeah, he would have been like sucked up to the 3-point line because Horford's, shooting like 40% from 3 this season. Like it, that would have made things a lot easier too. And Horford also another guy who, like Rob, like if you get him the ball and the defense does come to him, he can run that 4-on-3 really well. So yeah, I mean, like the health thing certainly. I don't know if we mentioned that the Celtics were shorthanded. I feel like that hasn't come up.
Oh yeah, I should mention that the Celtics didn't have 4 of their guys. And yeah, let's end with this: a starting lineup of Smart, Brogdon, Jaylen, Horford, and Danilo Gallinari. The 5 guys that were on the injury report: Smart, Brogdon, Jaylen, Horford, and Danilo. That starting lineup, assuming that there's enough of a supporting bench. What seed do they get in the East?
No worse than 6, right? Like, I mean, there's some good teams in the East, but like, no
giving
worse
the
than
proper respect. Let's just say the Boston is Boston, whatever.
Cleveland, Milwaukee, like all these
Philly,
like good teams
Brooklyn.
out there. Philly, Brooklyn, a lot of good teams out there. But yeah, 6 seed for sure.
No worse than 6th. No worse than 6th. Better than Chicago.
Yes.
Better than all those other teams. Yep. That's a pretty good starting lineup. That's a really good starting lineup. That's a team that might be like, yeah, we're 6 right now, but 4 seed's not out of the question.
Right.
That's a good lineup. That's how that. Not only were they.
That's a team that's looking at its first round picks and going, we might have to get rid of some of these at the deadline and pick up somebody because we got a little something here.
Right. So, all right. Well, I think that's a good conversation. From the look, 3 games and 4 nights, shorthanded. Smart's out for another week. Brogdon, hopefully the personal reasons aren't serious.
Yeah.
And hopefully these guys are back. But I do think the stuff that we touched on is stuff that needs to be addressed. I definitely think more than anything, my takeaway out of this podcast is, Joe, as much as I like the job that Joe's doing and respect, the fact that he's learning on the fly.
Yeah.
I think he has to learn a little bit more about separating himself from the game and just being smarter about how he's using things and keeping guys fresh. And if he could do that, then maybe they could have stolen this win. So, but hey, they come home. Hopefully they'll be at full strength soon, and this will be a good homestand. I mean, they're still the best team in the NBA, so
they'll be okay.
I love complaining about the best team in the NBA. Thanks, Tom, for hopping on.
Appreciate you.
I want to thank everybody for watching, for listening. I'll be back in Boston for the snow and oh man, I get 1 more hour. Woe is me, 1 more hour in Miami. But it's been fun to do it from here, but good to be home. I'm sure the Celtics are going to love being home as well. I want to thank you for listening, making the show your first listen every day. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. If you are, I would love it if you shared the podcast, tell your friends and family and everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.